Hi, in this video we will talk about classification of programming. Till now, you are already familiar with what is programming. It is a way of giving instructions to our CPU so that the CPU can also do the things which we can do and save our tons of time. Now, there are three ways of giving instructions to our CPU. These three ways are called classification of programming. The first way of giving instructions is called machine language. It is important to note that our machine or CPU can only understand machine language. It is also called binary language. It is written in 0 and 1. That's why it's called binary language. By combining 0 and 1, we give meaningful instructions to our CPU. Now, whatever you see on your screen or whatever your application behind the scenes, it's nothing more than 0 and 1. So our CPU can only understand 0 and 1. The main benefit of machine language is that it is the most fast language our CPU can execute because there is no pre-processing needed. The main drawback, however, is that it is very hard to write a code using machine language, because as a programmer it is hard to understand how we can combine 0 and 1 to give meaningful instructions to our CPU. That's why we needed something better. And computer scientists came up with something better than machine language. It's called assembly language. Now, assembly language is better than machine language because it does not use 0 and 1 but uses symbol, also called mnemonic code, to write or give instructions to the CPU. It's again harder for the programmer to write a code using assembly language. Let me give you an example. Let's say you want to add two numbers. For this, you will write instructions as underlined. Now, how much difficult it will be to write a complex functions or implement a complex functions and implement it so that computer can execute. Now, just adding two numbers is that much complex or that much difficult to understand. The complex functions will be far more complex. That's why assembly language was also harder for a programmer. We needed something better so that a programmer can write faster. And that's why computer scientists come up with something more better than assembly language. It's called high-level language. It's the third level that we are having. So it is the best way of writing the program. In high-level language, we give instructions to the CPU using a symbol which is very similar to English symbols. So in other words, it's very similar to English spoken language, and it allows programmers to write program faster than assembly language. There are many examples of high-level language such as C++, Python, Java. Almost every programmer is using high-level language to write a code. Even a big tech companies such as Google, Amazon, Facebook, they are using high-level languages to implement their e-business. Now, the example that we can see is over here. To add two number is C is equal to A plus B. Now, as you can see, underline instruction is adding two numbers and storing it to C. We will take a look at this, how this thing is happening behind the scenes and what is the syntax from the next section. So here, this instruction is adding two numbers. So you can see the difference, how much easier it is to write the program using high-level language. Almost 98% people of the world are using high-level languages. 2% might use assembly language for implementing a programming language. So a high-level language behind the scenes can be assembly language. But the thing is, our CPU can only understand machine language. Now the question is, if we write a program in high-level language or assembly language, then how our CPU execute those instructions? Now, for this, we need something called compiler. A compiler is a computer software that translates or compiles source code written in a high-level language or assembly language into a set of machine language instructions that can be understood by a digital computer's CPU. For example, you have a set of instructions in Python. You want to execute it, so it must be first translated into a machine language, which is 0 and 1. For this, we need compiler, which is a software. It will compile our high-level language into a machine language, and our CPU will execute those set of instructions because our CPU can understand machine language. The time it takes to translate the code is called a compilation time, and compilation time can vary. It depends upon the processor. The faster the processor is, the lesser the compilation time will be. That's why in modern computer you can execute the tasks in just a milliseconds if it is a really small function. But if you execute the same function in older computer, it will take more time because they are faster now. Anyway, that's how our CPU can translate and execute the code written in high-level language or assembly language. So that's it for this video. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.